This is 20 short horror stories for adults. One night, 20 scares. Written by Yash and performed by Yash.
Story 1. The House on Hemlock Lane. Sarah Martinez had driven past the house on Hemlock Lane exactly 47 times before she finally stopped. It wasn't something she'd planned to count, but the number stuck in her head like a splinter. Every morning on her way to work at the county courthouse, and every evening on her way home to her apartment across town, there it was. A two-story colonial with peeling white paint and black shutters that hung crooked on their hinges. The realtor had called her 3 weeks ago about the house. The price was unbelievable. Too good to be true, really. Sarah had been saving for years to buy her first home, and this place was half the cost of anything else in the area. When she asked why it was so cheap, the realtor had hesitated before saying the previous owners had moved out of state suddenly for work. Family emergency, he'd added quickly. Sarah had grown up in apartments her whole life. Her mother worked 2 jobs just to keep them housed, and the idea of owning something permanent, something that couldn't be taken away by a landlord's whim, had driven her through college and 5 years of saving every penny she could spare. At 28, she was finally ready. Now, standing on the front porch with the keys in her hand, Sarah wondered if she'd made a mistake. The floorboards creaked under her feet, and she hadn't even opened the door yet. The windows were dark, even though it was only 4 in the afternoon. She'd taken the day off work to do a final walkthrough before the closing tomorrow. Her supervisor hadn't been happy about the short notice, but Sarah had been too excited to care. The key turned easily in the lock, which surprised her. The door swung open with a long, drawn-out squeal that made her wince. The smell hit her immediately. Not exactly unpleasant, but strange. Like old roses mixed with something she couldn't identify. Something metallic. She made a mental note to buy some air fresheners. The living room was empty except for a stone fireplace and built-in bookshelves. Hardwood floors stretched from wall to wall, scuffed and worn but solid. Sarah's footsteps echoed as she walked through the space, checking the windows, testing light switches. Everything seemed to work fine. The room was bigger than it had looked during her first viewing last month. She could picture her couch against the far wall, maybe a reading chair by the window. In the kitchen, she noticed something odd. The previous owners had left behind a few things. A coffee mug sat on the counter, still stained brown on the inside. The coffee couldn't be that old if they'd moved recently, but it looked dried and crusted like it had been sitting for weeks. A newspaper lay folded on the small breakfast table. Sarah picked it up and saw the date. March 15th, 2 months ago. The headline read, "Local family of 4 missing after house fire." She skimmed the article quickly. The Hendersons. Father, mother, 2 young children. Their house on Pine Street had burned to the ground in the early morning hours.
No bodies recovered.
Police suspected they'd fled the scene for unknown reasons. Sarah set the paper back down. Wrong house, obviously. This place clearly hadn't been in any fire. Though now that she thought about it, she'd never gotten the previous owners' names from the realtor. She'd have to ask Tom when she called him later. The basement was next. Sarah flicked the light switch at the top of the wooden stairs, and a single bare bulb illuminated the space below. The steps groaned under her weight as she descended. It was a typical basement. Concrete walls, low ceiling, oil furnace in the corner. But something felt wrong down there. The air was colder than it should be, and there was that smell again. Stronger now. Roses and rust. In the far corner, she found something that made her stomach turn. Scratches in the concrete wall. Not random scratches, but deliberate
Sample complete. Ready to continue?